Alright, so today we're talking about the best selling cards under $5 less. It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. So the format is here. It is ready to rock right now. So let's just jump into it. Sorry with Bestial Druid's Worm. I think this card just randomly slipped under $5. I would pick it up as soon as, a card like this ends up in a relatively decent spot. I understand there's the Megaton fear, right? But I mentioned this on multiple occasions. Like, the Megatons don't always produce every card. Like, it's not possible. This is probably a good card to get reprinted in a Megaton, and this version in a year from now probably would be worth at most $3, right? But you can still make a profit before that if you're able to pick it up for under $5 and sell it for over $5, because it is technically just barely under that penny stock range. And on page 2, it's already starting to creep up past $5.50 to $6. So I would pick up Druid's Worm if you can get it for under $5. Basically, is what I'm saying. Because I think it's a really fantastic card, and it's always going to be a really fantastic card. Yeah, let's take a look at Nibs. Nib. Nib is in a really interesting spot right now. There's just always going to be some form of a card that can get hit by. Actually, no copies of Nib are under $5 anymore. So there's that. No copies of Nib are under $5. So, you probably could just wait for the next time that card's not as good in the format and pick it up then. Droll and Locks are, I think I just saw 75 cents, but that must, near mint first said 75. Oh, it's got plus 99 cents shipping and 0% feedback. Interesting. So you could test your luck with that if you'd like. My thing is, I understand, numbers are numbers and numbers never lie. The two best selling cards under $5 are both Droll and Lockbird and Nibiru. My thing is I put both those cards in the exact same category, where it's like, actually, we'll just take a look at the two decks that are on screen right now. And I understand those are two decks that are a bit older, right? So Droll hits more decks and Nib hits more decks than they did back then. But let's just take those two decks as an example. So Dragon Rulers, while they do have a good amount of searchability, they don't rely nearly as much on searchability as, say, Spellbooks, right? So Spellbooks is the other archetype that's over here, right? Spellbooks relies heavily on searchability. You go Blue Boy, Search Knowledge, and at Resolution, activate Droll. That's insane, right? Nibiru, terrible against Spellbooks. Usually Spellbooks, especially with Judgment at 1, is going to summon twice, right? And this is obviously back in 2013 format. I don't know what Spellbooks looks like now. I don't know what Dragon Rulers look like now. There's not a lot of Dragon Rulers that are back. But just going back to that format, the way those decks functioned back then, Nibiru would have been pretty good against a certain dragon, because, they summon a 7, summon Draco Sack, use Draco Sack, summon 7, summon Draco Sack, use Draco Sack, potentially summon back out the 7, that's the 5th summon, and then you board wipe, right? That's my thing with Nibiru and Droll and Lockbird. Like, Sprite can really play around Nibiru relatively well. Kashtira plays around Nibiru relatively well. Kashtira doesn't hate Droll and Lockbird, but it doesn't like it, right? Sprite's kind of good depending on their hand against Droll. Like, sometimes you activate Droll and they're just like, okay, it didn't matter anyway. And those are two of the best decks in the format right now. So there are obviously going to be decks. I think Pearly, I believe, gets hit by Droll really hard. Super Heavy Samurai gets hit by both really hard. I'm not too certain about Vanquish Souls. I know Vanquish Souls is better than I thought it was going to be, but I'm not too certain about Vanquish Souls at this time. But the point that I'm trying to make is this. I don't think these are great buys. I don't have a playset of either of these, and the main reason for that is because they're too circumstantial. I'd much rather use like an Ash, an Imperm, even a Ghost Ogre Ghost Spell to utilize in that slot because when you put cards in your deck that are based off of the meta and you don't face the meta, unless you face a deck that's similar to the meta, you just end up losing, right? So, but like I always say, spend your money how you feel, play your deck how you feel. There are also 2 copies of Ash in the top 10. Time tiering is interesting. We're going to take a look at some decks later this week. I am curious to see if that card starts sneaking in anywhere. Xeno, I would just be on the lookout for Xeno Meteosaurus. It's knocking on the $1 mark. You probably want to pick these up before it gets over $1. If I'm being honest with you, probably either today, or I get paid on Tuesday, so maybe tomorrow. I'm just going to pick up what I view as a dinosaur core. Because other than, there's the one card from Wild Survivors, Ground Xeno. Other than this card, Dinosaurs is dirt cheap, and it's still a relatively solid strategy, right? If you are going to do that, I would pick up 3 copies of this card, Miscellaneous Ceratosaurus. The gold version is my favorite version. It looks the nicest. It's the highest rarity, and I don't really love rare. I've mentioned that before. I'd rather get a common before I get a rare. But Miscellaneous Ceratosaurus, gold rare version, you pick up a play set of these and the card comes back to 3, you're going to do great. I do still want to do, I have a lot of videos that are actually in the queue in my head. It's just doing them, setting the time apart to do them. I do still want to do a market watch based off of the ban list, looking specifically at cards that only have 1 printing, right? Like Masterpiece, right? And different cards like that. So if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, just let me know. But as far as dinosaurs are concerned, really, really solid strategy right now. Blaster is still sinking around. Blaster is not Tempest. Like, Tempest is, yes, the Dragon Rulers do all have the effect of, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can banish 2 of this attribute or of dragons, and from your hand or graveyard, accept this card and special summon it. They do all say that, right? During your opponent's end phase, if this card is special summoned, you return it to the hand. They do all say that, right? They do all say if this card is banished, you can add 1 of this attribute's dragon type from your deck to your hand, right? And you can only use all these effects once per turn. But that middle effect is different, right? And so that you can discard this card and 1 fire monster to the graveyard, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. It's free pop, right? And the thing is, there's a lot of really decent fire archetypes right now. Like Infernoble can run this card. Castira can run this card. So, Fire King just got announced for a structure deck. And this destroys any card on the field. So you could potentially use this on your own card in Fire King, and it could be good depending on what Fire King looks like. I don't know what the new support's going to look like, right? But at the end of the day, near mint limbs are for $4. I would just keep an eye out on Blaster. Especially because it's only at 1 and it's still making those moves. When we look at Evil Twin or Alive Twin, whatever you want to call it, this has been an archetype that, thanks to Sprite, has had a very solid amount of relevance in the format for the last couple of years. Genesis Impact, I actually am just curious to see what does this look like. So it's $50, $46 for an entire boot. You can get a booster box for $46.90. You can $47, right? And you got Drytron, you got Evil Twin, you got Collector's Rare Unicorn, which could make your money back instantaneously, sort of that lottery ticket type vibe. Beat Cop is in here. Alistair is in here. That's a really low collector's rare at 13. And then, Bottomless is an okay card. Griffin's an okay card. The Magistus is an interesting archetype. I don't know if you've ever played Magistus. It's very interesting. That's the best way I can describe it. And when we take a look at what brought us here, it's that Evil Twin stuff, right? So, when we look at the best-selling stuff from Genesis Impact, it's the Evil Twin stuff, right? So, Evil Twin stuff, it's been lingering for a while. Another reprint target for sure. I don't think it's the best buy ever in the world, but if you could potentially get it For 80% of what TCG Player is now, you might be able to sit on it and sell it for a profit in a couple of months or so before the Megatins obviously come out. I do think Live Twin, I don't know, but I just have a feeling Evil Twin's going to be in the Megatins. We have a new card. I'm not going to talk about it yet, but we have a new card. I think this card's relatively new as well. This sort of like secret rare Dogran, because Dogran was in the Speed Duel box because dinosaurs were in the Speed Duel box. That's the interesting thing about the Speed Duel format, is it has a lot of cards from that era, like Evil Elemental Hero, Tempest, Drillroid, UFOid Fighter, Water Dragon, Clayman, but also has like Living Fossil and of course Dogran, right? So this is the secret rare version. There are a lot of versions on the market. I actually just went to Walmart yesterday and I saw this exact box just sitting in there. As far as this box is concerned, $40. This is for the display. $7 or $9 isn't terrible, but you're not guaranteed to get the Dogran. So it's just a tricky thing with that. But overall, this is a fantastic card. I personally think that like Sticky String and Kumungus, and of course Gamma Seal are better because they have less attack. But I will say, to my knowledge and recollection, there is one fire kaiju, and it is this one. And that's why if you look at like Fire King deck profiles that I've played, and once again, like I just said, Fire's gotten a lot of support in general over the last year and a half. But the Fire King support should be coming out in a little bit. And I run this card in it a lot because you can summon this card off a Circle of the Fire Kings. You can destroy this card with Fire King Avatar of Rada, and that's just that archetype. Like, there's so many other archetypes. This card synergizes with Blaster, so I think the fact that this card is fire is what gives this card value. I just be honest, I would pick up as many kaijus as you can, have as many playsets of kaijus as you can, because worst case scenario, it's not the worst archetype ever. I don't really know what like a kaiju deck looks like right now. I know like Yusenju and Gradle have partnered with kaijus before. Maybe like Shaddoll's as well. I guess. As far as like a newer archetype, I think Castira might be able to get away with running kaijus. I don't know. A lot of times when we see kaijus nowadays, there's just like a couple of them. It's not like a full archetype with like Waterfront and Files and all of those different things. But Dogran's an interesting card. Now, the new card is this card, Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is something I don't know if we've ever talked about, but we probably should. So we take a look. This one has the least amount of listings. This is the Megatins version, which a lot of times I've found, because I think the second biggest is the original version, the new Challengers version, obviously, right? I find sometimes the Megatins version, especially from these older cards, these older Megatins, they're the better selling one, right? And I think when we take a look, we went to the Battles of Legends version. When we take a look, this has less listings on the market. It's been up for quite some time. Looking at the Korean versions, this is technically still a penny stock. It's at that $4.95 mark. And when we come over here to the new Challengers version, this is at $4.50, but then it immediately goes $4.99. I don't really see the need, though, for it. Like, super rares are cool, but these are both rarity bumps. I guess depending on who you ask, some people don't like the gold rare version, right? When we take a look at this version, $3.40, I think that's the cheapest we've seen so far. That's definitely the cheapest we've seen so far. And then this version is $5 already, so this is no longer penny stock. So actually one non-penny stock, and it's the maximum gold version. So I would definitely pick up at least a few copies just to mess around with, see what will happen. You know, you pick up two of these, they end up both going over. Pick up two of these for, I'm not even gonna do it because it's $3.50. That's $7. They both go to $5. You sell it for $10. Cool beans, right? Like, cool. It's okay. Or if you do that on a larger scale, obviously that's just the more money and more opportunities you can get. Because the thing about Herald of the Arclight, it has just always been relevant. It's always found its way into random decks here and into random decks there. Let's take a look at this card. We've talked about Sky Striker specifically before. We usually don't talk about Area 0. So Area 0 says you can target one other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, add a Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, shuffle the rest back. If you excavate a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the graveyard, right? If this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon an ace from your deck. So this is a very, 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 very good card, right? Now, it has only 2 versions, right? The Megaton version, which once again, this is at $225, and the Dark Saviors version, which is the original version, is still the more expensive one at $366. And I don't know. Sky Striker's done okay. Like I said, we're going to be taking a look at deck profiles later in this week and just taking a look at different regional scenes and stuff like that. But as far as this card specifically is concerned, I wouldn't be too worried about FOMO. I mean, this is a really, discouraging graph. The word FOMO does start to like link into your mind for a bit. And there's going to be a lot of situations like this where it's like, I'm only selling one. Well, I'm only selling one. No, I'm only selling one. Everybody's only selling one. And that went too far back. And that makes sense. But when I look at this card in particular, the super rare version is the way to go. I normally would say just go for the cheaper version, but it is a get what you pay for. It's a common, right? So it's not as nice. Like if you're just trying to build a deck, you can obviously build a common because the cards do the exact same thing. But if you're trying to sell it, I would go with the super rare from Dark Saviors because it is the original version, because it is the higher, more expensive card, and it's a higher rarity as well, right? Sky Strikers, even if it's not good this format, has just always been lingering around for quite some time. And so I would just be on the lookout. Maybe just pick up a playset to see what happens with it. Next is Wannabe. We've talked about Wannabe before. I just wanted to talk about it again, see what this card's doing. I'm trying to remember what this card even. You can send this card from your hand to graveyard, excavate the top cards of your deck equals the number of opponents unused. That's right. This is anti super heavies. And it just came out. But it's good against a lot of decks too, though. Right? Like, the idea that this is really good against super heavy samurai is obvious, right? But it's also pretty decent against a lot of decks, right? Because it does say you excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of unused spell and trap zones, and then you can set an excavated trap, right? So that's really good in a specific matchup. Unless you're playing like the Labyrinth Mirror, the Trap Trick Mirror, or you're playing against Trap Trick or Labyrinth. Vanquish Soul, I believe, runs a lot of back row as well. Sky Striker runs a lot of back row as well. Unless you're playing like in one of those like specific matchups, you're probably going to get at least 2 or 3 excavates off of this, if not more, regardless of what your matchup is. Now, obviously, you're going to get maximum value against super heavy samurais, but if you're playing a trap deck and 2 or 3 excavates can get you there, I mean, you are going to set a card if it hits, right? So, Wannabe, if you want to be its lover, you gotta get with its friends. Wannabe, I mean, I wouldn't spend more than like $1.50 on this card, and that's my main thing with this card. But it's got a lot of like small listings, like only 1 copy, 2 copies. This one's at $1.50, $1.48 for 21. So you could, in theory, because this is definitely a card. It just came out. Not a lot of people are running it, but enough people are running it to where it's like on the penny stock market watch list, right? Like you could spend $31, let's say like $35 for taxes, depending on where you live. That's too much, like $33 for taxes, and then it goes to $2 and you sell all 21 for 24, or excuse me, for you sell all for 42, not 24, right? So that goes, from 32 to 42 or 33 to 42, right? or you wait for this card to be like a $5 card because some random trap deck ended up being really good. Trap decks don't usually end up being really good, but there is without a doubt this group of people, like them or not, that exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! That just love trap decks. And this card goes great with all of them. And it's also not too bad in insects, right? But let me know what you guys think. What are the best selling cards under $5 or less that you are interested in? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button, show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. But most importantly of all, have a good day.